I thought I was going to die that day. Everything in the plane was rattling, and it was so noisy that we couldn't hear each other. My heart was thumping, and my throat was closing up. I could barely breathe. To top it all, it was my 30th birthday, and I had a one-way ticket on that ridiculous flight. But first, let me tell you how I came to be on that plane. Do you remember the year 2008? Well, if you're lucky, it meant absolutely nothing to you. But it was the year of a major global financial crisis. And the stock market crash in the US was felt all the way across the globe in my own home in New Delhi. The funding that was promised to my family business dried up, and suddenly we were in a lurch. Everything had to be sold. The house, cars, jewelry. I had to step up, take on multiple loans, and so there I was at age 29, already caught in a long cycle of debt. Needless to say, I was feeling really trapped. Luckily, my job was keeping me afloat. And so in the following year, in 2009, I was sent to the US for a training, and I decided to drive from New York up to Boston. Now, somewhere on the way, kind of middle of nowhere, I found myself at an airfield. Small planes were taking off and landing, and I was immediately attracted to the colorful parachutes in the sky. Do you know where I was? It was a drop zone. So, of course, I decided to go in for a look-see. And the moment I walked in, they offered me 2 packages. There was the VIP package with a photographer and whatnot, and then there was the cheap thrills package. Now, money was tight, as you know, so I decided to take the cheaper package. And right away, I was introduced to my instructor, Larry. Good old Larry. Larry looked like he was 100 years old, but he said he was still kicking it. Now, I'd only seen people skydiving in Hollywood movies before, so in my head, it was going to be this big, fancy plane where people are sitting on benches opposite each other. Can you picture it? Mine was nothing like that. For one, the damn plane was ancient. And secondly, it was tiny. There was just enough space for the pilot, Larry, and me. One side of the plane was this one big gaping hole, which meant that as we rose higher, it started to rumble and shake. And freezing wind kept blowing in, it just kept getting colder. And I knew at that point that I should have taken the VIP package. However, there was a sinking feeling that it was going to get worse, and it did. Once we got to 16,000 feet above the spot, the green light switched on, and Larry signaled to me to crawl to the ledge. Now, I don't know why. I was thinking flying was going to be cathartic, spiritual, slow-mo. But when it was time, I was falling out of the plane with all the elegance of a sack of potatoes ripping through the skies at 200 kilometers an hour, and I could see my death approaching me. Every cell in my body was bracing for impact. And that's when I felt a tug, and I was yanked back up in the sky. And I became aware of Larry, because Larry was there. Larry remembered to open the parachute. So it was still pretty scary, guys. It was 15,000 feet. And I was panicking. All I wanted to do was put my feet down on solid ground ASAP. But even in that crisis, there's a tiny little thought that popped in my head that said, breathe, enjoy the experience, because you're going to miss it. And so I think I took a decision to stop focusing on my fear. And from that moment, I was flying. I was there, top of the world, owning the skies. And so whenever I try to put myself in these scary situations, like standing on stage, I tell myself, breathe, enjoy the moment, because it'll be over too quickly. Thank you. Anna?